My name's Aaron, welcome back to my channel. How are you? I'm fantastic and doing really well. And today I'm reviewing Tom Ford Velvet Orchid Lumière. Price was all over the place and it was about £70 to £100. The notes are rum, honey, mandarin, bergamot, black orchid, rose, jasmine, myrrh, vanilla, sandalwood. Do we have our bottles of Tom Ford Velvet Orchid Lumière? Are we engaged with our higher self? Let's get testing. So Tom Ford are milking that black orchid flankers to death. So I'm curious as to see what this is like. Black orchid is one of my most favorite fragrances. I hold it in reverence. I love it. It's particularly inspiring. It's what I used to wear before I really could create my own. It's what I loved. It's what really triggered me into wanting to do this for a career. So I'm curious. Lumière. Lumière reminds me of Beauty and the Beast with that French thing. That was so, I'm sure there's a character. So whereas I consider Black Orchid sort of dead on unisex, gothic, dark, rich, opulent, this is built around much more floral notes with the heart of Black Orchid. So this is a super floral version of Black Orchid. So you're picking up the citronellal, hydroxycitronellal. There's a sweetness to it. This is very sweet. And it seems to be luminaire. I mean, it's sort of fitting the name, luminous, bright. The top of the linalool and benzoyl salicylate. And benzoyl salicylate is a crystalline at room temperature, and it's used massively to create floral accords. And it's sweet and clean. There's a slight metallicness, which is from the phenyl ethyl alcohol. I like working with phenyl ethyl alcohol, but it gives a metallic feel to it. Now, the Black Orchid, I think the reason why I love it, because I figured it out sort of years later, was the way this is combining vanillin and then floral notes, masses of patchouli and ionones. And the ionones in this are just done superbly. And Tom Ford really know how to handle aroma chemicals, and particularly tricky aroma chemicals. There's a skill in handling things which smell unpalatable. So if you were to pick out the elements, the aroma chemicals out of this and smell them one by one, they would smell unpalatable. Combined, they give this beautiful, airy, light, but also dark, mysterious feel, and that is the core of Black Orchid. It has a slight incensey feel to it. There's a sort of darkness and incense to it that I don't really recall in the original. Can't remember. I love working with ylang ylang, and in the Black Orchid, the sort of the constituents are the patchouli, the bergamot, which I love, which is my favorite essential oil, ylang ylang, and then vetiver. It's also those naturals which I really love in a Black Orchid, and this is there's some sort of fruit qualities to it. So this is a sort of slightly more fruity, floral version of it. On to my final thoughts. It's quite difficult for me to judge it. I'm always going to judge it on my love for the original. And I think this is discontinued, and I don't know why it was sort of discontinued either. This is undoubtedly smells more female, and this undoubtedly smells older. And I think that's the citronellal and the hydroxycitronellal, all that stuff. And when you combine that, it sort of can smell a bit overly powdery and overly sort of like older. Absolutely has its place. And I kind of think that people that would love this would really gravitate to it. So I'll go through my marks with you. The first two marks are whether the box is safe, legal and compliant, and absolutely this is actually in order. So I kind of be gobsmacked if they produce something that wasn't safe and legal. I mean, that's what you're dealing with the brand, very professional range, and you're dealing with a company that's going to get it dead on. Next two marks are longevity and projection. I can say that all the Black Orchid stuff generally gives you really fantastic longevity, really gives you fantastic projection, longevity, all of that. That's kind of what you know what you're getting with it. I think the Black Orchid perfume was heavier and didn't radiate off, whereas this is more radiant. I kind of, maybe if you layered this one over the perfume, you'd be really like smart. But there is something in this I don't like. I kind of know what it is. The next marks the price. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's like the right sort of price. I mean, you're going to get something long-lasting, projecting, interesting. So yeah, I think it's cool. The last one marks are whether I like it. I don't like this. And that's because I don't like that very powdery, irisy, which is the ionones and vanillin. I don't like that. And I don't like sort of the hydroxycitronella mixed with the vanillin, mixed with the ionones, powdery. It kind of smells a little bit dated, if I'm honest with you. It kind of smells like a 80s, 90s fragrance brought up to date. It's quite a little bit unpalatable, but I kind of think if I was in my 50s, a woman who, maybe who had bought 80s perfume and 90s perfume, this, I think, is that sort of right thing. So I think this absolutely has its place, but it's absolutely not for me. It's kind of not my style. I love the original Black Orchid, and I kind of would love to see that really vamped up. If I'm really honest with you, there's ways to do that, add some cool stuff to it. Purely because I don't really like it. It's a little bit too feminine for me, a little bit too powdery. Not really my type of thing. I'm going to mark it as 7 out of 10, but I think it's really well constructed. I think it's really fantastic for the price, but absolutely not for me. But that's why we have so many perfumes, because what I don't like, somebody else is going to love. So we love that review. Thumbs up and subscribe for more fascinating, interesting content, lots of moving hands, lots of fragrance views. Hope you're staying safe and well, and I'll see you soon.